Hello all, welcome to my video. In this particular video, I'm actually going to talk about an important concept like in terms of how to do agile release planning in IT projects or engagements, right? So probably you might have done some kind of release planning in the traditional waterfall model. In this particular video, I am actually going to share my experiential insights on how to do agile release planning, what are all the different aspects or dimensions that you need to take care, and how do you actually keep a check on those aspects. Okay, so let me go ahead and then share the screen. Okay, hope you are able to see the screen. Okay, so here I have actually written a LinkedIn article. Okay, in this particular LinkedIn article, this is something like my experiential insights in terms of how to do the agile uh, release planning in the IT projects. Okay, now before we actually get into the crux of this particular article, right? Let me actually set, let me actually set some of the basic concepts. Okay, see, though we say that, right, like all these particular thing, no, we need to do things in a very dynamic manner based on the emerging trend, based on the evolving dynamics. All those aspects are good. However, if you are thinking from the perspective of a business sponsor, if you are thinking from the perspective of those people who are actually funding the project or funding the transformation, people generally expect predictability, right? Predictability is actually more on the say-do ratio, is actually more on the make and meet a commitment. However, if you want to respond to the market dynamics, which is more of a moving needle in terms of your emerging priorities or in terms of your evolving trends, it is more on the adaptability. So we need to know from a holistic approach, we need to know from a pragmatic approach, how do you really balance the needle between predictability and adaptability. That is something which I generally coach my scrum masters, my RTEs, project managers, program managers, delivery managers, and also product owner, product managers, whenever we are actually trying to do a agile release planning. Okay, so when I was working as an enterprise agile coach in the past, some of the sessions which I generally take to these particular the group of audiences, I actually teach them on how to do effective agile release planning. Now, fundamentally, the concepts comes from the agile onion planning model, right? You have your day wise planning, your sprint wise planning, your iteration level planning, then probably you can even go for a PI level planning, release planning, then your product roadmap, and then your quarterly priorities, vision, and all. Now, if you look into this particular, if you are actually looking into this particular diagram, right? So here, what am I trying to do? I am trying to put along the weeks, along the time axis, potentially what are the activities that actually need to be done. And I'm also clearly calling out to something called as a minimum viable product, right? So as part of this particular engagement, right, whenever you are actually trying to do it from a pragmatic approach, you cannot just like that go and then start your first iteration. You need to do enough justice as part of your discovery phase of that particular engagement. That is why we put sprint zero. Now, whether sprint zero is correct or not, as per the literature of agile, primarily I'm not interested to know more on that aspect. My aspect of thinking is whether it is appropriate to the context or not. Okay, so you may need to take a trade-off call between being correct versus being appropriate to the situation. You cannot go, you cannot get on to the iteration one without doing enough justice or due diligence in the discovery phase. So from that from that perspective, we still go ahead and put a discovery phase. Then I get into development. Then I go for a hardening sprint if in case the need be. If in case the source code is not as stable enough, you actually go for a stabilization iteration, also called as a hardening sprint. Then you do your performance testing, blah blah blah. Then your UAT sign off, parallel runs, and the hypercar, right? So whatever the production instance which is going, You are now trying to replace it with a new instance. Probably you can still make use of your blue-green deployment strategies and all, which actually comes from the DevOps world, and then your hypercare, like in terms of your support and the maintenance. Now, the points we need to keep in mind is, if you look into this particular diagram, this is more of a theory, right? For example, you have your teams like team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4 has a rows in this particular pictorial representation, and on the columns you put your timelines, or rather on a weekly manner also, right? Because 6 plus 7 is 13, 13 plus 7 is 20. So probably on a weekly they are putting the timelines. And if you come down, it talks about your okay, now how will I do an effective release agile release planning if I'm not even clear about, if I'm not even cognizant about the release goal and the release objective. So definitely you need to be very clear on what is your release goal, what is your objective, what is the scope of features which is contained in that particular release, and what could be the high level timelines. Are there any assumptions, dependencies, limitations, and constraints? All these need to be thought through. See, I will give you one of the example. Now, when my project managers typically do some kind of an agile estimation, and when they show it to me, the one of the very important thing which I ask them is, guys, what are the assumptions? What are the dependencies, limitations, and constraints that you have clearly called out? What are all the known risks? Are there any mitigation plan to bring down the risk? Combined with, is there anything like a confidence factor to the already done assessment? Because the confidence factor is going to tell how far people put their footprint in a solid mode whenever they are trying to do the assessment. Sorry, estimation, right? So, and then one more thing, how does my estimation is going to factor no the clauses or the compliance activities or the governance or the regulatory mechanisms which has been called out in the RFP or in the SOW. So all these aspects you may need to call out. Okay. So here in this article, you can just go through it. Okay. Here I have actually dissected it and then try to decipher it and then give it to you in a easily consumable manner. And I'm also trying to see, okay, I have done a high level agile release planning, like these are all the tentative milestones. This is the tentative go live date, and this is what we are going to do. Okay, now having been said this, are there any accelerators? Are there any enablers? Is there any way to create a unique selling proposition? All these aspects needs to be factored. It is not just doing estimation and then calling it out as, hey guys, I have completed the agile release planning. Absolutely no, because see, now you think practically. Let's say that you are working in a project wherein the requirements are not very clear. Okay. But still, you as an agile coach need to do some coaching and training guidance to the team. Even in the absence of the requirements, how are you going to help your product owner, business analyst, and your agile team to really gear up to find out the requirements? Okay. By the by, when I say there is no requirements, doesn't mean that there is no requirements at all. All that I meant is requirements are not in a easily comprehensible or in a easy manner to consume it directly. Let's say that requirements are not being documented, but you still have a legacy code, and you also have access to the legacy application, wherein you also need to do a lot of activities pertaining to field level validations. So in one of my project, when I was working as an agile coach long back, right? So I used to have some impactful conversations with the product owner, business analyst, project manager, and then we started making use of our in-house capabilities, which will do reverse engineering. Means it will really go through the code, know the parsing the code, PARSING, parse the code, and then it will do a reverse engineering or a backward compatibility in terms of the requirements traceability matrix, right? So what is more important is, even in the presence of constraints, how do you apply, how do you apply your knowledge, skills, and capabilities to maneuver through the situation? If requirements is easily there, your product backlog is been created, your sprint backlog is created, everything is there, Any guy can actually run the project. What's a big deal? Real world is not like what you learn from your certification program, like CSM, PSM, where they teach that you have a product backlog, you have a sprint backlog, and then you have the daily stand-up meeting, and your team is a cross-functional team. Your team is a self-organized team. All these things are correct, but not at day one in a real-time engagement. You need to make your existing team to become cross-functional over a period of time. Luckily, if you are getting a cross-functional team, that's your luck, right? So these are all some of the aspects which you need to take care. Now, again, when you are doing an agile release planning, another aspect or dimension is, what about the vendor and the supplier integration touch points? Those things also you may need to take care. Now, if you see this particular diagram, right, this is how I really do impactful coaching to my product owners and the product managers. I actually try to envision the flow orchestration, and then I coach them. Guys, you always need to create a visibility on the horizon in terms of a continuous rolling wave of backlog. It could be it could be your team backlog, which contains user stories, task and subtask, or your program backlog, which contains features, or your portfolio backlog, which contains epics or sub epics. Always you need to maintain a 3 months rolling wave of backlog. What do you mean by rolling wave of backlog? It means in the middle of April, I need to have at least the visibility till July. Now, in the middle of May, I need to have visibility till August. That is the meaning of rolling wave, 3 months of backlog, factoring the cone of uncertainty, and also doing an approach called a progressive elaboration, as the concepts of agile and lean says, right? So these are all the things which you need to keep in mind. Now, then one more thing what you need to do is, you also need to introduce some kind of a program level cadences, some kind of a portfolio level cadences, because only with the team level cadences you cannot sustain agility at all levels, like program and a portfolio level. So when it comes to program level, like no a feature backlog refinement, and your product owner sync up meeting, product manager sync up meeting, SOS, your scrum of scrum, and sometimes like in the world of safe implementation, we also do ART sync up meeting. Whenever it comes to portfolio, something like a budgeting related meetings, something like a strategic theme related meetings. So the exact name of the meetings I have given in this particular article. So respecting both of our time, I'm not going to walk through it word by word. So just to summarize, right, just to summarize before I wind up this particular video, agile release planning demands you to be very good in two main capabilities. One is on the agile part, second is on the release planning part, right? You still need to be good in your traditional way of doing release planning also. But however, the significant difference between a traditional release planning versus an adaptive way of planning is, here the success criteria is responding to change rather than following a plan, right? While you have a value on the right, the value on the left is more than the value on the right. That's what the Agile Manifesto says. So whenever any kind of a situation you have a doubt, go back to the basics, go back to the root of the tree. What does my Agile Manifesto says? What does my Agile values says? What does my 12 principles of Agile says? Okay. Similarly, what does the principles of SAFE says? What does the principles of Lean says? If we are able to get a good grip on the principles, believe me, any kind of a situation you can do magic. Okay. Now, for committed people who wanted to learn all these aspects in an experiential manner from me, I will be dropping my WhatsApp number in the description of this particular video. When I actually upload it, you can actually ping me. And if you are interested, like, you can might as well sign up for my Agile Mentorship Program also, where we have different lesson plans for different target groups or user personas, like a Scrum Master, Senior Scrum Master, RTE, team level agile coach, program coach, portfolio or a enterprise coach, product owner, product manager, project manager, program manager, portfolio manager, change agent, and the head of the agile transformation office or a COE. So for depending upon the user persona, I have distinctive lesson plans which will give you real-time capabilities, right? So, of course, the theory part is important, but still, once you gain a good grip on the theory, I will be teaching you how do you implement it practically. Okay. All right. So hope to see you in some other video soon. Bye.